America, home of the brave, land of the free, and playground to some of the dumbest people on the planet. Packed to the rafters with cretinous criminals, pea-brained policemen, disastrous drivers, and meat-headed morons. You're about to see some of the stupidest America has to offer. They may be big, but they sure ain't clever. This is America's Dumbest. Coming up, a clever copper comes a cropper trying to catch a crim. A bright spark tries to break into a petrol tank using bright sparks. And a courtroom plays host to some stripping. You know that feeling when you're in a stolen motor full of drugs and the papers you're carrying are mixed up with the credit cards of some guy you robbed this morning? I know, some days work just sucks. You're trying to make a career out of drug distribution and auto theft, and it seems like you just can't make a breakthrough. This cop is now getting way too close to the stash. As the radio report comes in about everything this guy has stolen, the cop begins to climb into the car. The driver has only one choice. Three gunshots ring out just before the van slams into the wall. The quick-witted cop actually drew his gun whilst hanging out of the van door at 30 miles an hour and shot the dealer 3 times in the same buttock. But the lawman didn't get away from this one scot-free. He was fairly badly injured when the van hit the wall. Next time this crim feels like going to work in a van, he should consider a white one with bells on top that sells ice cream. That way, when some dumbass lawman pokes his head through the window, he can serve him a Mr. Whippy instead of trying to kill him. Surprisingly, not all American cops are quite so quick to go for their guns. Some think they have superhuman powers and don't need guns at all. Take this case. 2 suspected criminals in this car are pulled over by nattering police. As the cops chat away in their cruiser, the occupants take the opportunity to leg it. Obviously, the lackluster lawmen are right on their tail. But the felons pull a fast one, and after a brief foot chase, loop back round towards their car again. This is schoolyard stuff. As one of the cops returns, he could end this now by pulling his gun or even his pepper spray and spraying the guy right in the eye, but that would be too easy. No, he's gonna try and drag him out. A 15-stone guy right through the window of the car. Failing, unsurprisingly, to lift the guy bodily from the car or even to use any of his assembly of weapons, it's not long before the perp simply starts the car up and drives off with the cop hanging out the window. And then just when it looks like the cop got away with it, he floors it again. Amazingly, the policeman wasn't badly hurt in this incident. Next time, he might like to think about taking lessons from his colleagues and shooting somebody. I've been framed. Welcome to the part of the show where we watch the cops set a trap for the criminals and let them stumble brainlessly into it. The man doing the setting up here is the owner of a farm. Someone's been stealing his petrol, and now there's a camera trained on the tank. There's a padlock on the tap though, so this petty petrol thief is going to have to get quite creative if he wants to fill her up. Plan A for this redneck is a simple one: use bolt cutters. But it looks like this thief is dealing with the Ray Winston of padlocks. It isn't going anywhere. But that's okay, he's got another idea. He's come well prepared. It's as though he's done this before, but perhaps not on camera. And you just know Plan B is going to be a corker. In fact, he intends to use a high-temperature oxyacetylene torch on a petrol pump, an act of astounding lunacy. But even with the torch burning at 3,500 degrees, the lock stays jammed. And with no crowbar, he decides to use his t-shirt to twist the hot metal off. Failing that, he then dumps it back on the ground and has another go with the blowtorch. But the sparks, combined with the leaking petrol, set his shirt on fire. So, as well as the flames in his hand, there's a little bonfire on the floor. Only a guy this dumb would start a fire at a petrol pump and hang around, to see if it blows up or not. He finally melts it enough to break the lock, unhooks the pump and starts pumping neat petrol. And with it all on tape, I think we can safely presume that this isn't going to be happening again anytime soon. It just goes to show that when a crim gets cocky and the victim wants revenge, a simple camera setup is enough to fuel the fire. Still to come, a criminal displays their evidence to a county judge, a fleeing felon finds his way into a ditch, and a madman with a Mohican makes off with a goose.
Count 1001.
Jennifer Reddy is a 44-year-old school bus driver. She's also whacked out of her head on booze and doing the drunk test.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand all the instructions that I've given you?
Yes.
Can you repeat them to me?
I have to hold up my foot.
How many inches?
6 inches.
6 inches.
And count 1001, 1002.
Until when?
1003, until you stop.
Until I tell you to stop. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead and begin.
1000. Oh, I'm terrible.
All right, well, stop.
All
Stop.
right. 1001, 1002.
Count aloud for me.
1.
All right.
All right,
Well,
you know I'm drunk.
okay.
I'm drunk. I can't.
We'll move on to another one. Let's see if we can find a.
I'm not going to pretend I'm drunk.
All right.
Despite a full confession, the officer persists and the drunk test becomes more and more dance-oriented. She couldn't care less that she's going to lose her job. Showbiz beckons.
The beginning. Let's go back, okay?
I feel good.
Stand here, Jennifer, okay? You need to take this very seriously,
All right, yes,
okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and stand like I told you to do so. This is what I want you to do. When I tell you to begin, I want you to walk, heel to toe. Walk.
And it looks like the cop may also be a frustrated line dancer.
4, 5. Imagine that there's a straight line right down through here. I want you to take 9 steps. If you can make 9 steps before you reach the ambulance, then
Knox County Schools later said that Reddy will no longer be driving their buses. She will, however, be teaching power drinking and advanced tap to the 11-year-olds this autumn. The moral of this story is getting smashed and then driving children around on a school bus might not be the cleverest thing in the world to do. Conventional wisdom holds that when attending court, it's best to be deferential to the judge, make some kind of regret, and claim that you really didn't mean to pour paint thinner all over that estate agent's BMW. You're supposed to play the game and turn up in a suit. Sadly, this woman here only had one kind of suit to hand. Her birthday suit. Here is the naked truth. 24-year-old Nicole Babb was awaiting her bail hearing on grand theft auto and identity theft charges when it seems she felt like giving Judge Gerald a quick look at her evidence. She'd like both of these entered into the court records, please, and she'd also like her other bits taken into account as well. Judge Gerald thinks it's the best defence case he's heard all week. While all this is happening, the lady at the front of the court not only manages to keep a straight face, but also to seem a little disgusted by the shenanigans. Thank God she didn't try to follow suit. She'd have cleared the court. Behind her, the stripper is now surrounded by giggling court employees who begin to dress her up. We're just glad Judge Gerald didn't decide to get up and shout order. There might have been another member standing up in the courtroom. Before you all switch off your TVs, it's okay. This woman is not going to take her clothes off. She has a whole other kind of courtroom outburst planned.
Not giving a good presentation, but obviously the woman on the other side of the lens is also in need of medication.
That woman she's talking about is the judge. Judges love this kind of thing. Margaret Ray here is in jail for stalking an astronaut and stalking and offering to marry talk show legend David Letterman. Oddly, Letterman turned her down. What hot-blooded male wouldn't want to come home to find Miss Ray waiting with a carving knife using your dead pet as a hat?
I would like to be able to get out and have a hot meal at the table and a pot of tea before dusk, and a promise to appear in your court, but not, I have a speaking engagement in Kentucky.
A speaking engagement in Kentucky? Ah, yes, that must be a presentation to the Department for the Deranged. The judge, however, isn't laughing. Instead, she sent Ray straight back to prison and made her attend a psychiatric evaluation. Considering she's already in prison for serial stalking, that should be a quick one. One final outburst gives Mr. Letterman a tantalizing taste of what could have been.
3 times I have submitted commissary requests for the obligatory stamps and envelopes. The man in charge of commissary has not delivered my commissary.
What more could you want from a wife? She cooks, she cleans, she skins stuff alive and screams at the moon with your school pictures glued to her face. She's a honey. Coming up, pinching a foul makes this felon fall foul of the feds. These bozos get some shock therapy. And a car break-in gets this crim kicked in by the cops. Coming up, dangerous driving gets this defendant dumped in a ditch. A bit of rough and tumble by the cops is caught on camera. And a man gets a pair of double Ds he didn't want. As a cop, you expect to pull people over for a whole host of reasons. Drugs, guns, knives, or even hiding a whole family of Mexicans under the carpet of your Chevrolet. But you really don't expect to write many tickets for goose theft. Police were called after this bloke was seen picking up a goose from the local botanical gardens and stuffing it into his car. He claims that he didn't think the goose belonged to anyone. The cops quickly arrest him. There simply aren't enough people driving around town in a red car with a goose peering out of the back window to claim it wasn't him. Why did he do it? Well, he claimed the goose looked lonely. Maybe he had a hotel room booked and a little bubbly on ice. Or maybe the oven was already preheated at home and the Maris pipers were boiling nicely. Luckily, the police got to our Mohican feather-loving freak in time. If they hadn't got the goose when they did, it could have gone one or two ways for the poor bird. But either way, it was gonna get a stuffing. Nearly wiped out an oncoming school bus? You must have been drinking. Booze has been the companion to your average dumbasses since the dawn of time. An off-license might look like fun, but every juicy-looking bottle is filled with at least 3 bad ideas. Bad idea number 1. Get in a car drunk when you already have a suspended license and let your inner race driver come to the fore. Bad idea number 2. Overtake a cop car out looking for you. And bad idea number 3. Make like a getaway driver even though you haven't stolen anything. And if you need a 4th, trying any of the above while being filmed by a helicopter is not the sharpest idea either. Yes, it's all too much for our man as he rolls the SUV into a canal and bails out. Soon he's out of puff and has a 15-stone copper's knee in his back. And for what? He didn't steal anything, he's not any richer, he's just a drunken fool. The problem is this much booze and exercise just makes you want to puke. Only a real pro can deal with drunken high-speed chases and then run around on a load of booze. Who does this guy think he is? A Premier League footballer? America's dumbest drivers. There are some things you learn early on as a child. One of these is not to play with electricity. So when these crims on the run get pitted and hit an electricity pole, it's somewhat surprising that the first thing they do is leap out and clamber through the sparking power lines they've just brought down. The cops, on the other hand, stay resolutely in their cars. Wandering round in a shower of high-voltage sparks doesn't strike them as a good idea. Here's why. It's only by an act of sheer luck that the felons didn't get themselves fried. But shortly after the power is turned off, they were hunted down and got banged up instead. Still to come, a mad surgeon gives a muscle man some melons. And a grass verge is the stage for a druggie to get downed. If you get caught breaking into a car in the garage of an upmarket apartment complex, you expect some decent treatment. A nice mug of tea while you wait for the police, maybe even some bickies. I mean, look at these guys, they're fat enough, they must have a pretty serious tuck box in their control room. Problem is, for all these security guards, those nights spent watching blank monitors and eating coconut snowballs have made them razor sharp. Eat hard, fight slow, that's their motto. These men like action, carrying shopping, removing spiders from bathtubs and changing light bulbs. So when they really do get a live felon, they don't really know what to do with him. As he starts to mouth off, it's more than this proud officer can take. That had to hurt. And that. Amateurs, you never whack a suspect round the head, it shows up on photos. Of course they're acting in self-defense. You can't be too careful even if the other guy is cuffed and there are three of you, each weighing as much as a small car. Best keep him pinned down. Finally, the cops arrive to take him away. Hopefully they'll show this felon what real professional law enforcers can do and give him a kicking that leaves him in agony for a week with no visible marks. Boobs, we all love them, but only on women, not on men. Boobs on men are disturbing, and that's exactly what former bodybuilder and Mr. Mexico, Alex Bays, found out when he went to fake plastic surgeon Ronald Sylvester for pec implants.
After 20 days of my surgery, he disappeared.
After surgery, he came out looking more like Barbara Windsor than Rocky. Faker Sylvester decided that he needed neither equipment nor qualifications to start doing this titty stuff. So, with his play school knives and his female double D implants at the ready, he got cracking. He botched one tit completely, but the other one was a roaring success. If indeed this bodybuilder wanted to look like Pamela Anderson. Oddly enough, even though one fake bosom is missing, Bays doesn't seem to be willing to part with the other one. So next time you're in Florida trying to make yourself manly, be careful which surgeon you pick. Because a hair implant could suddenly turn into a pair of double Ds and Leslie Ash lips. And if your surgeon has, like this one, less brain cells than qualifications, he'll probably leg it as soon as you make a complaint. Ever wondered what that boring bit of grass in between motorway lanes is for? It's for fighting. Yes, despite the fact that some losers still drive from A to B like a bunch of drones, most cool drivers are using the grass verges to duke it out in some kind of Alan Partridge-esque fight club. Take this muscly ape man. He was happily swerving from lane to lane when some other drivers forced him to pull over. He hopped out of his car in the middle of a busy road, a move bound to draw attention to himself, and before long there's a guy with a ginger mullet punching the crap out of him. Which just goes to show that even if you are a 20-stone muscle man, always watch out for the redneck. Chances are he's been fighting gators in the swamp since he was 6. Soon the cops arrive and make our road-raging roid freak take a field sobriety test. Cleared for booze, cops later allege he was whacked out of his head on pills. And as he's taken away in the ambulance, all he can do is look back and wonder why precisely he chose the exposed middle of a road to look for a fight. If he'd found a quiet back alley, he could have taken a pounding in private. And so it's time to choose our moron of morons. We saw a crazy copper who decided to dive into a moving van and got slammed into a wall. There was the sexy siren who thought stripping might save her from the slammer. And we saw some bobbies whose lack of brains let them beat up a burglar in front of their own cameras. But none of these quite matched up to the slow-thinking thief who tried to break into a stockpile of explosive petrol using a blowtorch. Mate, you are America's dumbest.